Calvin, Chapter 3, page 12. When I was 9 or so, Mom washed Hobbs to death. She threw him into the washing machine with a few towels like she'd done lots of times before, but this time he busted up in there. When the wash was over, the towels were gummed up with tiger guts and tiger fur. Mom slowly pulled the mess out and into a basket, saying they were old towels anyway, and maybe she'd just chuck the whole thing into the garbage, and, sorry, Calvin, I guess he just wore out. Before Hobbs died, I was one way, and after, I was different. Before Hobbs died, I wanted to win the Change the World lottery. I wanted to be that person who does one thing that makes the world better. The world only spits up one of them every 100 years or so, and the odds were 6 billion to 1 that I'd win. Einstein won it with the theory of relativity, but given the lower population of the world, the odds when he was alive were slightly higher. Before Hobbs died, I thought I could win that lottery. After Hobbs died, I started to see how dumb that was. I realized that you had to be a freak of nature to win that lottery. I mean, to really win. I wondered if it was worth it. Freakdom is a high price to pay for a ticket. I also began to wonder why I wanted to change the world in the first place. Fame, money, was that any reason to want to change the world? Before Hobbs died, a cardboard box could be a time travel machine or a transmogrifier. After, it was just a cardboard box. I noticed other things too. After Hobbs died, I got scared of careening down steep hills in my wagon and on my sled. After Hobbs died, I wasn't scared of the monsters under the bed anymore. I started to be afraid of climate change and nuclear bombs and all the things I heard on the news that didn't go shrinking away when you turned on the light or your mom walked into the room. Now, I was 17 and a tiger was talking to me, and I wasn't scared of the monsters. That was a mosquito. Now I was 17 and a tiger was talking to me, and I wasn't scared of the monsters under the bed. I was scared of the monster in the bed, which was me. Kind of ironic that mosquito was here during that. Okay. It took a while, but somehow I fell asleep that night. The next morning, I stepped out of bed and fell to my death and found out why people scream on their way down. Then I woke up for real and put my feet on the floor and fell to my death and found out that even when you've done it before, you still scream on the way down. Mom yelled through the door. Mom, Calvin, what's going on? I called you 3 times. Hurry, you're going to be late. So I got out of bed and I could see atoms. No, for real. I could see all the atoms that make up the world. And when I stood on the floor, it was like 1,000,000,000,000,000 ball bearings were under my feet. I showered and felt hydrogen and oxygen hitting in alternate streams of molecules. And when I sat down to shovel in scrambled eggs, I could almost hear the baby chicken atoms saying, "Don't eat me." But I ate them anyway and left for the bus. Waiting with me at the bus stop in the rain, just out of my line of vision, was my buddy, the man-eating tiger, Hobbs. It was freaky in one way to have Hobbs there, but in another way it wasn't horrible. Since my only friend, Susie, had made new friends, I hadn't had anyone to hang out with for a long time. Now I had somebody to talk to, even if it was an imaginary tiger. Hobbs started talking again, clear as could be. Hobbs, let me tell you what it was like to be washed to death. First, you get a hole in you, and your guts start stretching out of you, and the hole gets bigger, and the guts get longer, and soon you're swirling in soapy water, and your own guts and fur, and you turn inside out, and your eyeballs sink to the bottom of the washing machine, each eyeball all alone, and you can't even see your other eyeball. And that's it until your best friend is laughing at your lonely eyeballs. Me. It did look kind of funny. It had, but I'd still been pretty choked up about it at the time. Hobbs, I think you should make it up to me. Skip school. Let's play. Me. Go away. Hobbs. Come on, buddy. We had good times. We will again. And the sled rides and the snowmen and the snowball fights and the forts. Me. Remember I broke my arm and my leg last time we went sledding? Hobbs. Remember all the adventures? Me. All the fights. Hobbs. All the exploring and climbing trees? Me. All the trouble we got into. Hobbs, let's run away. Me, people will think I'm insane because you talk to me. Hobbs, since when did we care what people think? Me, there's more of them. The definition of sanity is a democratic thing. They get to decide. Hobbs, we'll have our own reality. Me, you can't have reality all by yourself. Hobbs: Why not? Me: Because it's like playing Calvin ball. If you make up the rules as you go, nobody else gets it. Nobody else can play with you. You never know when the game is over or if you won. It's sort of pointless and lonely. Hobbs: You gave up on trying to win the Change the World lottery. Me: I could never win. Hobbs: You should never give up on that. Me: It's too hard. Besides, now I have to figure out how to deal with my problem. Hobbs: What problem? Me: You. You are my problem. Hobbs: Your imagination is a transmogrifier. Me: The transmogrifier was just a cardboard box. I want you to leave me alone. Go away. Hobbs: No. Me: I made you up. I can make you go away. But he didn't go away, Bill. He stayed. Chapter 4. School's always been pretty bad. Mom said they were going to keep me back at the end of first grade, but when they tested me, they found out I was in the 96th percentile for intelligence and they figured I was just bored. Dad gave me lectures explaining how all the brains in the world wouldn't do me any good if I didn't know how to work. But as it turns out, all the lectures in the world don't make things any less boring and they don't make you work harder either. So I aced classes where all I had to do was show up and take tests. I didn't do as well in classes that required projects. It always bugged me that I went to school, but I didn't seem to learn anything really useful, like birds. I saw the same kinds of birds every day, and there I was in my last year of high school, and I didn't know what kinds they were, except robins. Shouldn't there be a class called Basic Birds? What about flowers? Shouldn't there be a course called Common Flowers You Will See in Your Typical Day? And what about stuff like how the financial world works? What about how to get into the stock market without losing your shirt? Or even what that information sheet they give you when you open a bank account means? I had to read Lord of the Flies in English class just to learn that all teenagers are animals at heart. And thank you, civilization, for keeping us from ripping each other's throats out. But Lord of the Flies was written in 1954. Haven't they written any good books since then? Maybe we would evolve if the curriculum did. How about a course called Marriage 101 or Mortgages 101 or Parenting 101? Some of the biggest things in your life and you don't get taught how to do them. But hey, I know the molecular difference between an acid and a base. I've got nothing against knowing the molecular difference between an acid and a base, but how about something practical once in a while? I just want to look around in the world and not be totally baffled by it, even as I recite the periodic table, you know? So, yeah, Bill, I've always had a problem with school. All morning, Hobbs followed me around in the hallways and in my classes, never in full view, always just behind me and to my right. Sometimes I caught a glimpse of the end of his tail. All morning I thought, the English project, the biology project, Hobbs, the English project, the biology project, Hobbs. They were like mantras in my head. They were like canker sores in my mouth. They were like little rocks in my shoes. I thought, I should go home. No, I can't go home. I should run away. Hobbs: Hard to win the Change of the World lottery if you're a high school dropout. Me: Or if you talk to imaginary tigers. My parents didn't know that I was about to become the first 96th percentile to flunk. My dad had told me over and over again to do well in school so I wouldn't have to grow up to be a ditch digger. And now that I was about to resign myself to a lifetime of ditch digging, I realized I had never seen a ditch digger anywhere ever, and probably they had machines for that. Hobbs: There's always McDonald's. I wonder if you worked there for, say, 20 years, you could afford to move out of your parents' house. I wonder if a guy whose great ambition is to be promoted from french fries to hamburgers could get a girlfriend. On a day like this, of course, I couldn't get lucky enough to avoid Maurice. Maurice: What do I have for lunch today, Timbit? Hobbs growled. Maurice grabbed my lunch bag and reached his huge hand into it. He threw the apple at me. Maurice: You can have that. He looked at me like he hated me for letting him get away with this every time he forgot his lunch, which was a lot. Hobbs: Can I eat him? Maurice: You're looking skinny, man. Tell your mom you need a bigger lunch. He unwrapped my sandwich. Hobbs: Not much to him. Me: Eat him anyway. Maurice leaned into me, slamming me against my locker. Maurice: What was that? Hobbs might have jumped him if Susie hadn't suddenly been standing there. Susie. Everything okay, Calvin? She glared at Maurice. Hobbs. Babe. Me. Your boyfriend is a bonehead bully. I could say that because I knew Maurice wouldn't do a thing to me if Susie was there. Susie. He's not my boyfriend. Maurice. Bully. Strong word. I thought we were friends. Maurice threw his arm around Susie's shoulders, grinned at me, and took a big bite of my sandwich. She slid out from under his arm. Maurice. Hey, where's your sense of humor, McLean? This is the way men show our affection. Right, Timbit? We're buddies, right? Susie looked from me to Maurice and back again. Me. Sure, Maurice. Buddies. Since first grade. Maurice. Susie, you want half my sandwich? She took it absently, and they walked away enjoying my peanut butter and banana sandwich. Susie looked back at me as if she was hoping I'd say something to Maurice, but I didn't. I never did. Hobbs. I can't believe you're still putting up with that. Me. Depends on what you mean by putting up with. Hobbs. No wonder you brought me back. Me. I didn't. I want you gone. But at that moment, I sort of didn't, Bill. I sort of liked him beside me in a corner of my mind, growling at Maurice and calling Susie babe. The kids in the hallway were looking at me funny, possibly because it appeared I was arguing with myself, so I headed to English to eat my apple and wait for class to start. I didn't know why I went to class. My life was over as far as school went. The project didn't have to be handed in until the end of class, and maybe I thought one would float down out of space and land on my desk. All during class, I was suffering the pains of the damned who don't do their semester projects, and I thought I could hear the tiny screams of my brain cells as they died of grammar review boredom. They started to get so loud, I almost couldn't hear the teacher. She was looking at me, bending into that look, like she was seeing how repulsive I was for the first time, and suddenly she was revealed as the globular-faced alien she really was, and I understood that she was slowly turning the brains of young humans into a kind of gray smoothie, and one day she'd stick straws up our noses and sip our brains out. Teacher. Calvin? I hadn't heard her question, but I sensed that under those buggy eyes was a subtle mind. Me. Politely. Could you rephrase the question, please? She paused. Was she on to me? Teacher, where is the prepositional phrase in this sentence? I'm not sure how I could phrase it better. Me. In this sentence. That's the prepositional phrase. She stared at me. I thought I could see her jaw bubbling, as if her mandibles would break free of her human disguise any moment. Teacher, clever, but I was talking about the sentence on the board, not the one I was saying. I looked at the sentence on the board. By now, about 1,000,000 of my brain cells had gone to their deaths, victims of grammar, but I tried to summon the survivors. I said something, but only nonsense came out. Susie was looking at me like I'd sprouted a cancerous growth. Susie. Calvin? All the colors in the room were a little too bright, the edges too black. Couldn't she see the evil intent of the so-called teacher? Hobbs was growling, low and deadly. I stood up, but I felt wobbly. Me. Run, Susie. I'll cover for you. Teacher. Calvin? Calvin, are you all right? But I wasn't, Bill. Something was wrong, and Hobbs was roaring in my ears, and the teacher had morphed into her true alien self, and I could see Maurice laughing, and that's all I remember until I came to my senses in the hospital. Chapter 5. Calvin's alter ego, Spaceman Spiff, wakes up and discovers that he has been abducted by aliens and is now restrained in a sterile laboratory in their ship. It is obviously an interrogation room, but Spiff is stoic and defiant. They have assumed the thin guise of humanoids, and this, Spiff decides, has been done to trick him into being docile as they perform their hideous experiments. They poke needles into him and draw blood and ask him questions about the workings of his mind. At first, Spiff refuses to give them what they want. He sees them conferring, deciding on the torture best suited to making him speak, and eventually they make him confess to everything. Spiff despairs of his plan to save the world from a hostile takeover. That's how it was, Bill. One minute I was this normal kid who uses his mind, and the next minute I was transmogrified into a kid whose mind uses him. I tried to figure it out, but how do you use your mind to figure something out if your mind is the problem? I just kept thinking, me, My name is Calvin, and why do I have a tiger purring in the corner of my room? I kept thinking this over and over until it occurred to me that it was possible something cosmic was happening here. Maybe Calvin was so real to so many people that on the day I was born, which was the day the last Calvin and Hobbes comic came out, maybe all that love and sadness people felt, I opened up my mouth to get my first breath, and I just sucked it in. I wasn't sick. I was Calvin, come to life. Thinking about it like that, it was like all these pieces came together. Of course, people probably wouldn't believe me, but hey, anytime something amazing happens in the universe, we should pay attention, shouldn't we? When something is hard to believe, maybe it's the universe shaking things up a bit. Maybe it's saying, "You haven't got me all figured out by a long shot." It's saying, "I have a sense of humor too." I was lying there thinking about that, Bill, when my mom came in looking like she forgot to wear makeup and brush her hair. I knew she looked like crap because she was worried about me. Dad was right behind her, looking like he did at tax time, sort of tight and spooked. Mom. Hi, Calvin. Me. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Dad. Son. Mom. I love you, Calvin. Mom wasn't the gushy type, so I knew things were pretty bad when she said she loved me so early in the conversation, and it wasn't even my birthday or anything. Mom sat down on my bed. Dad didn't say anything, just kind of smiled, ruffled my hair. Me. Dad, don't be sad. You were a good dad. Sometimes the polls were pretty low, but you weren't about the popular vote. You were about building character. He bent down and put his forehead on top of my head. Dad, my boy. Me. Maybe if you weren't so strict. Maybe if you'd gotten me all the Christmas presents I asked for every year. Dad, that must have been it. Me. And TV. If you'd let me watch more TV. Dad nodded. Me. And making me take baths and go to bed at a reasonable hour and not letting me chew tobacco when I was 6. I always thought it might push me over the edge. Oh, and don't forget, you never built me that backyard ski lift. Ultimately, everything is the parents' fault. Dad, everything. He said it low and soft. Me. But remember, just because your polls were low a lot doesn't mean you don't have big fans. Doesn't mean some people don't love you so much. A man came in wearing civilian clothes, jeans, and a golf shirt. Man. Hello, Calvin. I'm Dr. Filburn. Me. Doctor, huh? Where's your degree? Doctor. I have my diploma framed on the wall in my office. Would you like to see it? Me. I hear those can be faked. Dr. Filburn smiled. He was tall and had great muscles and looked like the kind of guy all the women in the world would probably want to date. He asked my parents if he could talk to me alone. They went out, and then the doctor asked me about what happened at school. Soon I was spilling the beans about Hobbes and my projects and Spaceman Spiff. I opened up about all that personal stuff, and he comes back with, "You probably suffer from maladaptive daydreaming, and the auditory hallucinations indicate you may have a more serious illness." I decided to be polite. Me. I'll take your thoughts under consideration, doctor, but you should know that I wanted to go into neuroscience. I know brains. I might even have some. Doctor, I'm sure you do. Let's invite your parents back in. He asked them questions about their parents and siblings and if I did drugs and if they had noticed this or that or the other. And then he said he suspected that I may have had a schizophrenic episode, but it would take observation over a period of time to confirm his diagnosis. Mom listened to the doctor and nodded and tried to look like tried to look like he said I had a bad case of hangnail, and Dad looked like he wanted to punch him. I kind of drifted off while he explained all about the brain to my parents and told them that schizophrenia was a family of psychiatric disorders, how it can be confused with other disorders, how symptoms range from slightly to totally disabling. Every time he said the word schizophrenia, it felt like needles in my eyes. But then there was Hobbes sitting just out of my sight, yawning and licking his chops. Dr. Filburn stopped talking, and all three of them looked at me. Me. Am I still going to grow up? Doctor, I'm pretty sure you aren't terminal. Me. Okay, so I can go home now? Doctor, I'd like to keep you for a few days to run some tests, come up with a plan for therapy and medication that will help you manage your symptoms and get you back to school. It's important to start treatment in young people as soon as possible. We'll change the course of treatment if the provisional diagnosis is wrong. I thought it was time to reveal my new brilliant idea. Me. This could all be cleared up pretty easily without medication. I just need Bill Watterson to make one more comic strip. Only one more comic strip, or even just one panel of Calvin at age 17, healthy and well, with no Hobbes in it. Doctor, staring. Mom, staring. Dad, staring. Me. I've thought about it a lot, and I figured out that Bill Watterson and I have some universal connection. He made me this way, and he could unmake me this way. The doctor looked at my parents. Doctor, this is one of the common symptoms of schizophrenia: delusions of inflated worth, power, knowledge, identity, or a special relationship with a famous person. Me. Okay, but listen, I was born on the very day Mr. Watterson published his last comic strip and wrote a letter to the public saying he was done. Isn't that right, Mom? Mom, well, but we didn't know. Me. And then my parents named me Calvin. Doctor. Mom. Yes, honey, but you know we named you Calvin because your dad had just finished his PhD thesis on Calvinism. We'd never even heard of Calvin and Hobbes. Me. Okay, but tell the doctor what Gramps did. Mom. Well, he brought you a stuffed tiger. Me. And put it in my bassinet right there in the hospital and said he wasn't going to have a grandson of his named after a man like John Calvin. And by putting the tiger in my bassinet and calling the tiger Hobbes, he renamed me even though my name was still Calvin. Dad, this is all true, but he meant real. You have an interesting family. That does not mean Bill Watterson controls your destiny or can help you in any way. Dad, seriously, Calvin, you think you were made by Bill Watterson? I mean, I was there when your mother and I made you, and you don't want to make me tell you about it. Me, I'm just like Calvin. You can't argue with that. Mom, you're not like him. You, me. Have you read the strip? Mom, yes, once. Your grandfather made me. Me, so how am I different? Mom, you have 5 fingers. Me, 4 fingers were symbolic. Mom, of what? Me, of how hard it is to draw hands. I have blonde hair like him. I still have my red wagon. Dad, everyone's wagon is red. Me, too, Dad. You wear glasses. Dad, so does your mom, unlike Calvin's mom. Me, maybe she wore contacts. I build the best snowmen on the block, and my first grade's teacher's name, Miss Wood. How close can you get to Miss Wormwood? Huh? Mom, I admit it's unusual, all those coincidences, but that's just what they are, coincidences. Me, is everything weird and unexplainable that happens in the world a coincidence? Are you sure? Mom, yes, I'm sure. Doctor, Calvin, Bill Watterson has no ability to help you, and he doesn't have any wish to. Unlike me and your parents, we're going to do everything we can to get you well. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't want Mom to be even sadder than she already was, watching her son, Spaceman Spiff, crash and burn as he entered the atmosphere of planet Schizophrenia. Doctor, I think Calvin needs some sleep. We'll talk again in the morning. Mom, yes, sleep sounds good. Dad, we'll see you tomorrow, okay, Calvin? Me, okay, good night. My parents and the doctor left the room together, and Mom started crying before she was out the door. Midnight, and I was still thinking about you, Bill, and me, and Hobbes, and Susie, my ex-friend, or frenemy, or whatever she was. She was part of it, too. Excuse me. Half the night, I thought about how I could convince you to do just one more comic strip, one starring 17-year-old me, alone without Hobbes, just me, but without this illness. That's when I came up with the plan to prove my ultimate fandom, so you would draw me that strip. I knew it would make me better. You could make me better, and make Hobbes go away. Once I had my plan, I could fall asleep, even though Hobbes was snoring.